All right, so why don't you tell us about this?
Yeah, so Grgich Hills Estate, I don't know if we presented any of these wines to you. They've been with us about 2 years now. Came to us over from Southern.
Okay.
I think Johnson Brothers may sell it in the west coast of Florida.
Okay.
So we're kind of dual in the state. Everywhere else we sell it. If you don't know the story about Grgich, it's Milijenko Grgich from Croatia. Came over, and his first job in the United States, he worked with Andrei Chelestev at BV.
Okay.
Working on the George de la Tour project, making Cabernet. Then he got under the tutelage of Robert Mondavi. And this is where he made his Mondavi's first Fume Blanc.
Okay.
Back in 1973. So this is a Fume Blanc, the same recipe, the same style that he made for Mondavi.
Okay.
That made it famous for the United States. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Fume Blanc means smoky.
Yep.
So it takes its name from being fermented in charred barrels, toasted barrels. I shouldn't say charred. They only char barrels for whiskey.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, is that really where they get it? Because I heard kind of, and this could be just folklore that you hear, is that Robert Mondavi comes out, he saw the fog kind of over the vineyard, and he thought, Fume Blanc. I don't know. I like your story better.
Well, it's definitely from.
I have heard that
in
story
California.
as well.
It could be a little bit of both.
Right. Okay.
Now, the French make Puy Fume
Yep.
in Loire Valley.
Okay.
They don't put the wines in barrel. Everything's stainless steel produced. But the Fume comes from the soil. The soil is a silex soil. It's a high concentrated limestone that gives it that flintiness, and that's where the Fume comes from.
Okay.
In France.
You don't typically see Sauv Blanc and Fume Blanc on the label. It's either one or the other. So it's a little.
They never used to put
surprising to
Sauvignon
put-
Blanc on the label. It was always just listed as Fume Blanc. But last year they decided to add Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just for clarification for some of
I think
us.
so.
Some of us that don't know.
I will say that it, not necessarily my favorite Sauv Blanc. I don't know. Maybe it's not as citrusy, not as crisp. I don't know.
I thought it had
It
just
has a little
bit
more
of-
creaminess to it. I don't
almost a
know.
musk
The
to
barrel's
it.
going to give you that weight.
I think that's what it is.
And that creaminess.
Yeah, okay.
So you get the second fermentation. Typically, when you're moving things to barrel, you're going to get naturally malolactic fermentation, or conversion, they call it.
Because Sauv Blanc doesn't see oak typically, does it?
No. It
So
doesn't.
this is why, for me, it's drinking like a Chardonnay.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it has the oak.
Gotcha.
And so you used his Croatian name, but Mike Grgich was the winemaker
Correct.
at Chateau
Montelena.
when they won Judgment of Paris.
Judgment of Paris.
Okay.
Was,
Look at you.
I know.
Get out of here!
so he made the wines for Chateau Montelena.
Yeah.
So the funny story behind that is that the New York Times called and wanted to interview him. And Bo Barrett got angry because he wasn't being interviewed.
Okay.
Because he was the owner of the
Sure.
winery. They wanted to interview Mike, and that's
Right.
created the fallout between those
That's
two.
what it was.
Wow.
Okay.
So he ended up marrying, got involved with the Austin Hills family, and they're a coffee company family.
Okay.
That's where the name comes from, Grgich Hills.
Okay.
It's Austin Hills Coffee.
Well, there you have
So
it.
they married their monies together, purchased property in Rutherford, and started the winery like 1979, I want to say.
But really, because once
they've
you
been
get
around
to
for a long
know
time.
Napa, you know that Grgich is one of the top names,
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the top producers.
Yeah, you'll see them when you're coming up Highway 29.
Yep.
You know, they're right there on the right-hand side in Rutherford when you're coming up.
But
Yep.
you know, you see a Grgich on the menu, it's
Sure.
probably going to be a little bit more expensive, and but always top quality. So,
All estate.
and I'm not saying
100%.
I'm not saying I didn't like it. I just said, for me, it was drinking more like a Chardonnay than it was drinking. I mean, kind of that in between.
Yeah,
So-
and Sauvignon Blanc has so many different styles
Sure.
now. Whether
Yeah.
it's New Zealand you're speaking about, you're talking about Loire Valley.
Right.
You know, the Chileans are making it now. You've got a little bit of production in Australia as well. So there's so many different profiles
Right.
of it. Napa Valley, in my opinion, I mean, the fruit ripens so much. Sometimes it gets a little tropical.
Right.
You tend to get some pineapple and mango components on the wine too, because
Right.
of the climate.
Sure.
That's
Awesome. Thank you.
It needs some food.
Are you normally Chardonnay lovers? Do you?
What do you have in the bag?
Well, I got a fun production
Let's find out.
from Benoit Touquette.
Never heard of it, so.
Benoit Touquette is the winemaker for Realm Cellars.
Okay.
He's garnered over the past 10 years 28 100-point wines
Now,
in California.
do you carry the Realm?
So not yet.
Okay. Woo. Okay.
Well, what do you mean not yet? You guys are working on it?
No,
no.
we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So we work with Benoit very closely,
Okay.
and we work with Philippe Melka very closely. Those guys have a project together called Fabma
Okay.
and Fairest Creatures with Michel Roland. The wines are insane. The production's really, really tiny. There's
Right.
like 30 to 50 cases produced.
Wow.
So we represent those wines. So Benoit brought us Teeter Totter,
Okay.
which is a fun project where it's not a very serious. I mean, it's a serious business, but he doesn't take himself very serious. He's just this
Right.
kind of a funny, different kind of Frenchman. Especially with the accent. When you're in front of this guy, he's so charismatic. He's just amazing. So it's kind of a fun play on the balance of wine. You got the mouse here on the Teeter Totter with the elephant. So the question is it one-sided? Typically, this would be oak.
Right.
You see the elephant, or is it one-sided, maybe more acidity and lighter flavors from the mouse? So in this vintage, he particularly has the mouse being heavier than.
Okay.
So different vintages have a different.
We could
create
get the same
That's
thing. You
very
know, the Teeter
different
Totter.
size of the
Very
Teeter Totter.
creative.
Fruit in the front,
I like
acid.
Yeah, in the back seat, right?
So we need to get you guys a little teeter totter prop.
I
that
know,
You can set
yeah.
stuff on
Kind of
it.
like the mullet concept.
Yeah, exactly. I told him the mullet.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Party in the front.
No.
Party,
No.
Party's in the
Business in the front,
Business in the
party
front.
in the back.
Yeah. Got it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a neat label.
It's a
Very
fun
creative.
story.
It is a good story.
Do you know Philippe Melka? Are you familiar with his wines?
I'm not.
So he worked for making wines for 100 Acre, Screaming Eagle.
Okay.
He works and does a lot of consulting with like 20 other different wineries, like
Okay.
Michel Roland does these days. But he makes a lot of projects with Benoit as well. So we just picked up some of Melka's wines.
Is he working with
his estate.
Heidi Barrett on anything?
So Heidi does Paradigm. I
Right.
think she's doing Amos Bouche. And,
Yes. That's right. Hers is a mouche.
Yeah.
That's right. I didn't know if he worked with her on
Coup de
that.
Foudre, no, she doesn't work with her with
Okay.
those. I mean, they're very close and they're friendly to each other, but they don't work together.
Right. Because Heidi was at one point the winemaker for Screaming Eagle.
That's correct.
And Paradigm, when we were out there, we were with Ren Harris, who's the proprietor of the property, and he said back in the very late 60s, early 70s, he was the farmer who planted the grapes for Screaming Eagle.
Really?
Yep. And so he owns Paradigm and had, Heidi Barrett is his winemaker. And he says that he believes his wine is better than Screaming Eagle.
He does.
Got to have the belief
You do.
when you're making your own product.
Have you tasted on this before? Have you tried this?
Not today. What do you think?
Definitely different.
I mean, just from the color, I wouldn't have guessed Chardonnay. Like, it doesn't
Really?
have that deep gold straw color that I see in a lot of Chardonnays. It just looks a little bit lighter, but
Hence
it holds on to the
Hence the
glass.
Teeter Totter.
Hence the Teeter Totter.
Right, maybe so. That's
With
what,
the
kind of
mouse.
what I was
That's right.
asking.
You know what I am, and I
but
don't
it's
know
still
if it's
got body
from,
to it.
I don't know if it's from maybe not cleansing my palate from the fume, but I am getting a bit of smokiness out of it.
I am.
Oh, are you getting that
yeah,
as well?
I absolutely am.
Do you get that, Tony, or no?
Not me. Not out of this. Do you get smokiness?
I don't know what it is.
It could be the fume still in the glass.
Yeah, I don't know.
Should have rinsed you, sorry.
No,
No,
I
that's
pick up
fine.
on smoke too. And as soon as you said it, I could smell it.
what do you?
Maybe
I
you're
mean, this
messing
seems
with my
this
mind.
sees
I'm
some
getting I
this sees some
personally-
barrel, I imagine.
Well, it
right?
definitely has
Yeah.
barrel aging.
Sure.
The barrels are 100% neutral, so they're about
Okay.
7 to 8 years in age.
So not imparting a lot
So,
of flavor
I mean, you're
there.
going to get a little bit of complexity from the
Yeah,
barrel.
but maybe
and
that's
vanilla
what-
component. but
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be heavily oaked
Right.
as far as
No, it's not
one-sided.
heavily oaked, but I don't know. Again,
It doesn't give you the tannin of some newer barrels.
No.
Typically, 'cause I get a lot of fruit on this.
Okay.
Up front, it's almost cotton candy-ish.
I get that now.
Yeah,
You keep giving us words, and we'll just keep picking up what
Yeah.
you're saying.
But it's a cool.
You ever eat you know how many
there
different
is-
species of apples there are? There's like probably
A lot.
20, 30 of them, right? You ever eat a pink lady apple?
No.
Yeah.
Pink lady apples have a little bit of this component. It's almost cotton candy-ish. You definitely get in the apple flavor, but it's got a little bit more of a brightness.
It's almost like a candied apple.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of that.
You know
like
what I
that
mean?
red candied apple that you
Yeah.
used to get as a kid. But yeah, not a lot of those kind of back-end vanilla butterscotch buttered toast that you would typically get.
Yeah,
in
it's not a one-dimensional
Chardonnay. Right.
Chardonnay. There's
Right.
multiple layers.
There's a lot going on.
There's
and
more in the
flavors.
front seat
Yeah.
than there is in the back seat.
We don't know what's in the front
Yeah.
seat, but it's good. Awesome. All right.
Now, it's a cool story. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Very
just
cute.
revisit
That's
that.
enough of the
Good.
whites.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to use a Corvin on the next
I like
bottle.
that.
Yeah.
I like that label, though.
They go up in price a little bit. So,
That's
and I only
100%
got
Napa.
so much of these ones to show.
Okay.
When's the last time you had some Kosta Brown?
It is. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what. We have it on the menu.
Do you?
Yeah, we do. We have it in all 3 stores. We've got a couple of customers that just absolutely love it, and you want another glass or?
I'll let that be your discretion. I mean,
Where are you?
since we're going to, everything else will be red going forward. So
Oh, we can go. Okay.
How do I get the big
Escaping me
one?
now. Is the Russian River Valley what we have on the menu?
So Kosta Brown is based in Russian River Valley. They're actually in Sebastopol.
Okay.
But they also make a production from Santa Rita Hills now.
I think there was a problem getting the Russian River. I think we had Santa Rita Hills.
I believe that as
I
well.
believe that
As well. So that's down
Yeah.
in Santa Barbara.
Correct.
Okay.
Where Santa Rita Hills is. And they're on the western edge of Santa Barbara, so right outside of Lompoc. That's where
Okay.
they are. That's where Sanford
And just
is.
so I'm not sure that Joe knows this, but Kosta Brown is owned by Duckhorn.
Duckhorn.
Got it. It is in their portfolio. In fact, we did a wine dinner with Duckhorn and had Kosta Brown in that lineup, didn't we?
Yeah,
I believe we did.
I think so.
I'm sure we did.
When was that?
Somewhere.
This has been a year back,
Yeah?
probably.
Probably more than that.
Would you entertain another wine dinner?
We
down
did.
the road?
Absolutely.
We did 2 or 3 of the decoys. I think we had the because they've got some. We did a migration in there, and they've got a couple of others in their portfolio. And then I think we brought that in just because it's kind of under the same umbrella.
Gotcha.
Is Kosta Brown just Pinot Noir? Do they?
And Chardonnay.
And Chardonnay. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So just when you think of Burgundy, so Chardonnay and Pinot Noir only, that's what their production is. They're a Burgundian style winery.
All right.
And for those that don't know why it's Burgundian, because in France and Burgundy, that's all they can grow, right? Is-
Yeah, so they
is those
grow
two grapes.
Chardonnay Pinot Noir, and they grow another grape called Aligoté,
Okay.
which is a white grape.
Okay. And can they use that for blending?
So they don't typically because it wouldn't be French.
Do they make a wine out of it? though?
They make a single production of Aligoté.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the production's really tiny. They don't grow a ton of it.
Right.
So you'll see it in certain parcels of the Côte d'Or
Okay.
outside of Beaune that produce it, and it's not a lot. I actually like
Is it good?
Aligoté.
Okay.
It's a fun wine to drink on a
Right.
daily basis
Okay.
because the price is affordable.
Right.
It's typically in the $30 range, where some Burgundies, even village level, are climbing
Sure.
to $60 to $70 a
Yeah.
bottle now,
Okay.
Yeah.
if not more. If you go Premier Cru, Grand Cru, you're $200-300.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so Burgundian style, I can tell you, doesn't really resonate with me. I respect it. It's a good Pinot Noir structurally. Has all the characteristics. It's light, beautiful color. On the nose, getting really probably fresh cherry. little bit of pepper.
I love it. I think it's just drinking great right now. I'm a Pinot fan, though.
As soon as the
You're a
cherry
Pinot
hits
fan.
me,
You're
something
not.
else kicks in, and I can't tell what it is.
So for me, it goes towards, and I love that we're talking about this
Yeah.
and engaging with each other, because everybody tastes things differently.
Sure.
You can have some more. Want some more?
One great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Adam?
I'll try a little more. Sure, thank you.
Have a splash.
Jack Holcomb loves this.
Okay.
Eddie Schatz loves
Eddie Schatz
this.
absolutely loves
And,
this. We keep it in there just for him. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Jack, if you're listening, I know you're not.
Thanks
And you're
so
not
much.
watching. But we're drinking this for you.
Yeah.
And we're keeping it on the menu for you.
For me, it goes towards that. You get those classic red fruits. You get the cherry.
you do.
Maybe a little bit of raspberry, red plum notes. But then it goes towards a kind of baker's spice.
Okay.
So you get a little bit of the cinnamon, cardamom components, and then
okay.
leaning on the cherry note, it kind of gets a little bit more cola-esque, like an RC Cola. Remember that
Okay,
brand back in the day?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a cherry cola for me.
It's just funny what your mind can kind of recall.
Yeah.
You know, if you say it tastes like boysenberry, well, you've lost me because I've never tasted a boysenberry. So it's just what your palate has tasted, what
Sure.
you can remember.
Absolutely.
What about a
know,
gooseberry?
Nope, never had one.
Okay.
But a suggestion from several people: next time you're walking through a farmer's market, just pick up a piece of fruit and smell it, and kind of register that, and then that becomes a memory that you can pick up. You know, but there's just such a depth. You know, but if you could even just say, okay, bright red fruits, and you know, some baking spices, and then once you say it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, then you start.
Yeah.
It opens up your
Then it
mind.
starts
I
to
mean, what does he
register.
mean by baking spice? What does
Right.
that mean? Think of
Right.
apple pie spices.
Yeah.
What do you add? There's cloves,
Yeah,
cinnamon,
nutmeg,
a little bit
cin-
of brown
yeah,
sugar, nutmeg.
Right, sure.
Totally.
Awesome.
And then you go back into it and,
Yeah.
and find it, right?
And that's the beauty of Pinot Noir, in my opinion. It's such a thin-skinned grape where it doesn't technically have a lot of its own flavor. It picks up flavor where it's grown. So when you taste a Pinot Noir from Russian River Valley, even versus Santa Rita Hills, from the same producer, they're so different, night and day.
What makes it unique, Russian River Valley?
The cool climate.
It's,
and the-
it's a
the
cool
soil,
climate.
alluvial soils.
It's the Gold Ridge soils.
Oh, yeah. So
Yep.
Russian River is known, really, it probably produces some of the best Pinots in the world and the best Chardonnays in the world. Period.
I agree.
Yep. And I would say your Pinots and your Chards are going to be some of the best in Napa and Sonoma coming from Russian River. Maybe you have a little bit of comparison to Carneros for Chardonnays, but I still think the Pinots and Chardonnays out of Russian River
Yeah, you're
are the
getting
best.
all those regions are getting that maritime influence with the fog.
Right.
You know, when you're closer in Carneros and closer to the San Pablo Bay, you get it off the bay.
Correct.
In Russian River, you're getting it through the funnel that's coming in off the Pacific. When you go to Santa Rita Hills, you're not far from the Pacific either, so it comes in off the ocean. But it's so cold there in Santa Rita Hills,
Yeah.
and you got limestone in the soil. Here it's all different soils, so that's why Santa Rita Hills tends to have a little bit more of a tart flavor
Okay.
on the wines, a little more spicier too sometimes.
And we had spent 0 time in Santa Rita Hills, so yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's fantastic.
It's a cool area. I mean,
Right.
they make great Syrahs
Okay.
from that region too. Yeah,
Awesome.
cool.
Okay.
So it just
I think
didn't.
it needs food.
How would you compare this to Dumal? Because I know you guys brought Dumal.
I will tell you, I would have to try them side by side, but when I had Dumal, I told you I'm not a Pinot guy, but it may have been the best Pinot that I've had. That's what I said, and I can't remember the last time that we tasted Dumal, but it's been in the last 60 days, and I still think that.
So side by side, though, because you weren't necessarily a fan of that. Side by side, what's the big difference for you?
It's been a while.
Okay.
When I tasted Dumal, I said, to me, that is structurally one of the best Pinots I've had. The flavors, everything that in my mind, probably from watching Sideways, that I had in my mind for what a Pinot should be, Dumal was, in my mind, as close to being a perfect Pinot that I've had.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Duckhorn. And this is kind of probably the varietal that put them on the map. This is the Merlot.
Oh, sure.
And you pronounced it Merlot.
Merlot.
Yeah. With a kind of an A there.
How do you pronounce it?
I think most people say Merlot, but it does have more of a long A sound.
Yeah,
Merlot.
I kind of learned that and been maybe brainwashed over the years to say it that way.
Is this the most underrated grape? Like,
no.
we don't.
I'm going to tell you,
it's Cab
it is not.
or it's Pinot Noir. I think it's. I'd be interesting to just look at our mix.
Oh, for
I
sales?
don't think that people order Merlot. Merlot. And I think it's just underrated. They don't know what to put it with. A Cab says steak, and
this is on
Pinot
our
Noir
menu,
is lighted.
as well as
Absolutely.
the Decoy Merlot.
And it's a great
because
wine.
if you're going to think Merlot, it's going to be Duckhorn. And then Decoy,
When's the last time
owned
you
by
ordered
them.
Merlot at a restaurant?
It's been a while.
Right.
So, in my opinion,
it's
over the
underrated.
years and being in the industry for nearly 25 years, is that people hesitate to spend money on Merlot. They'll spend it on really, really good Merlot for the money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not going to spend the money. They just would buy a Cabernet instead.
Sure.
Right. I
They're
feel
a
like
little fearful.
it takes a little more savvy
Correct.
wine person to kind of find a Merlot on the menu.
Now you're saying
I
it
feel-
Merlot?
I'm going to. I'm going to be that guy.
Okay, all
But
right.
I feel like it just takes a little more savvy person to kind of find that Merlot on the menu, because I want something light, I go to Pinot Noir. I want something bold, I go to Cab.
But if you want
Where
something
does
kind
the-
of a little bit, typically your Merlot is going to be a little bit softer.
Agreed.
More approachable for, let's say, someone getting into wine. They've gone to Pinot, now they want something just a little bit more, but they don't want to go to a Cab.
Well, and that's a challenge for staff training, is you don't just have to jump from Pinot straight to Cab.
And you're 100% right. Merlot
an
is traditionally used to help soften Cabernet.
Yep.
Kind of softens the tannin edges of Cabernet, smooths it out. When there was bad Merlot in California because of phylloxera, so they had to cut down a lot of the vines, replant it, but they were picking it too early. It was still tasting very vegetal because it hasn't matured yet. It takes minimum 10 years for a vine to mature and produce riper fruit, round fruit anyway. So that's when Malbec became popular back in the 90s, and people were using Malbec to blend into Cabernet, and then they were planting Syrah too, and then Syrah.
Well, it's also one of
became
the
a grape.
It's one of the five noble grapes.
Five
Okay,
noble
you're right.
grapes.
Okay. Yes.
So Merlot is making a comeback, and I think since 2020, with the shutdown, people started gravitating and tasting different wines around the world.
Right.
They started getting into wine clubs, a lot of Zoom calls with winemakers and getting online. Oh, let's taste Bordeaux, because we never get to do that. So we're tasting Bordeaux, especially if you're tasting Right Bank, you're tasting nothing but Merlot. If it's Saint-Emilion or if it's from Pomerol, those are Merlot-dominant regions.
Right.
So people were drinking those and spending money.
Yeah.
So now they're getting re-educated, let's say, regarding the Merlot varietal.
So what's the Mouton Rothschild known for?
Well, they're left bank based,
Right.
so it's Cabernet based.
Cabernet.
Yes,
Yep.
because of the limestone soils.
Okay.
The right bank has a lot of clay in their soil. So Merlot grows best in clay. Cabernet grows best in limestone.
Would you say Duckhorn's doing some of the best Merlot out of
Well, this is what
California
they're
right
known
now?
for.
Yeah.
This is kind of what put them on the map, and it's usually their estate vineyard is the Three Palms Vineyard,
Right,
which is what
okay.
did that, where they was selling grapes to multiple different properties.
And I just
around
read,
California.
I just read an article about top Merlots, and I think it was the Three Palms that received one of the highest accolades.
Yeah, it did.
Yep.
I think the enthusiast
That's what I think that was. Yeah.
put it like in the top 3 or top
Correct.
5. I want to
Correct.
say.
Yep.
I don't have the exact
Right. I
denomination.
know.
No, it's got great
Yeah.
fruit, but it doesn't hit you with a big tannin bomb at the end of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
too. So it's a
If
great.
this is how all Merlot drank, I would be a Merlot drinker.
Sure.
I just have to say that. This is very well balanced. It's not
So
too
their
dry at
estate
all.
Merlot, a lot of the fruit is from the valley floor. It's from that Three Palms vineyard area, but they also own property up on Howell Mountain. So this is coming from Howell Mountain, a little bit from on the Mayakama side as well. a little bit north of Mount Veeder
Okay.
when you're heading towards Calistoga. So they have some. You get some more acid.
You know the area well.
You're getting some of more of the red fruit components
Okay.
in these wines when you go higher up the mountains. Yeah, you tend to get a little more structure in the wines too.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's drinking great.
Awesome. Cool.
Oh, you got more? You got more tricks in the bag?
Yeah, are we okay? You
Whoa.
want to keep going?
Listen,
Just like
Tony's a
Mary
regular
Poppins.
Mary
I know.
Poppins over there. Oh, every time.
Oh, and you mentioned WhiteHall Lane. It is, I don't know the last time I've had this, but it's been years. And you mentioned it was your favorite.
Whoa.
This was my favorite Cabernet when I worked for Southern Wine and Spirits back in the day.
Right.
Now they're Southern
Southern
Glazers.
Glazier.
So
that's going way
and I
back.
sold this 24 years ago.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm excited. Now,
What's the story
We're
with
in
Whitehall?
Here. We're in your
I don't know anything about WhiteHall.
WhiteHall's in Rutherford Bench
Okay.
of Napa Valley. They own 6 estate vineyards, so some of their vineyards are not all Rutherford. They're in Oakville, Knoll, as well, St. Helena, as well as Calistoga.
But those are all premier areas.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So they all bring a little bit of a different element to the recipe, let's
Yeah.
say. This,
It was a good year.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by that, but okay.
Well, yeah. Find out. Read it in my bio.
Click bio below.
Yep. Read it in the link below. 100% Napa fruit.
that's correct. Not 100% Cabernet. It's about almost 89% Cab.
Okay.
The other 11% is going to be Merlot, Petit Verdot, and just a smidgen,
I don't know if it's
smidgen of Malbec.
And I'm not saying it's too cold. I just don't, it feels a little bit tight for me. I don't know. I don't think it's too cold because I love cold.
No, yeah.
I just don't know if
Talk
it's,
about. Do you need a cube?
no, I don't need a cube. I'll have a cube later, but